you're putting them on the right project based on their skills. So that is your placement. So we looked at job description, recruitment, selection, and placement. Then we had ended the class. So today, just before we go ahead with staffing, I'll just take you to the chapter called motivation. Okay, after that, we'll revisit this chapter and continue from where we have stopped. This is because this chapter is very interesting and very important also. And looking at the situation that you are now, maybe some are traveling, some just reached home, not. So we'll look at this chapter motivation first. Okay, then we will revisit the other things. Yeah, so let me start. Yes. So this chapter, this comes under the chapter leading. Okay, planning, organizing, staffing, leading, controlling. So in this leading, we have motivation theories, we have leadership theories, and we have something known as communication. So first we will start with motivation. Okay, we'll see what it is. See, motivation is some kind of internal drive, okay, that encourages you to go the extra mile. See, motivation is like, taking bath. Okay, once you have taken bath, doesn't mean that you are clean for your life. You have to take bath daily. Like that motivation, it's some kind of inner drive. After the task is achieved, after the goal is achieved, it can come down. So people need to be motivated frequently. So this is a well-researched area. It has been, beaten to death, this research area. Lot of studies on motivation. There are n number of theories, but for your syllabus, there are three prominent theories which are widely used. Okay, which are widely used. So we will look into it. You must have come across these theories at several places in life. These theories are used in marketing management also. Marketers use this theory to understand the psychology of people. Okay, what motivates this person, so that they can target them with the right kind of campaign or ads like that. So we'll see what is that motivation. Okay. So the first theory that you have in your syllabus is known as Maslow's need hierarchy. This is how it looks. Okay, hierarchy of needs. In other words, it's called. So here, the difference what you should understand is what is need and what is want. Okay, which we have discussed in the earlier chapters. Need is some kind of basic necessity. Okay, want is some kind of luxury. So you are very hungry, you need food, anything will do. Give me Parle G biscuit, give me rice, idli, whatever. I'll eat. I need it. Okay, want is some kind of luxury. I need pizza. Okay, I need burger. So that becomes your want. Need is I need one place to stay. Give me any place, I'll stay today. But want is I need a penthouse. I need a balcony in that. Okay, I need a swimming pool. All that, like that wants. So this theory talks about basic human needs. This is given by one researcher called Abraham Maslow. That's why this is known as Maslow's hierarchy or hierarchy of needs. Okay, so this is given by Maslow. So whenever you talk about this theory, what Maslow says is, according to this theory, unless the bottom needs are met, a person will not be motivated to go higher in the ladder. So Maslow has categorized 5 needs in a hierarchy from bottom to up. Okay, and he says unless the bottom needs are met, a person will not be motivated to work further. So first he says this need should be met. After that, second need, then third, fourth, like that it goes. So the first need what Maslow suggests is physiological needs. Okay, be careful here. Whenever this question is asked, people write psychological needs. So whenever people write psychological, you get a 0. Okay, because that makes the theory wrong. So we don't read further. Even if you have good points, you get 0. So don't write psychological, it is physiological needs. Okay, so according to Maslow, first physiological needs should be met. So what comes under these physiological needs? Okay, it is your food, clothing, shelter, all these things. Okay, you need some food to stay alive. Once that is met, then only you will be motivated to work further. With a hungry stomach, you don't expect someone to work. Okay, so like that, food, clothing, shelter, a nice place to stay. When all these things are met, you are motivated to work further. Okay, see, In one of the classes we discussed this example, I think. Imagine, say today is Monday, for example, Tuesday. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock, you have to join, you have to report for your job. You got a job in Bangalore. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock, you have to report. Okay. So imagine if you travel today night. So you're planning that 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock bus you will catch from TC. 6 o'clock you will reach Majestic, and from there you will go to your friend's house, keep your luggage there, freshen up, have a nice breakfast, and your office is say 10 minutes away from your friend's place, so you will reach there at 8:30. Everything will be fine. So this is what you are thinking. But because of some reasons the bus gets delayed and you reach Majestic at 8:30, and then you don't have any time to freshen up and all that, you directly rush to your work. Okay, imagine what will happen to you on that day. You're directly gone there, you're not freshened up, you're not had breakfast. So 9 o'clock they're not going to serve you breakfast, first day first shop. You have to start working. So you go there, you go there with your luggage, keep it somewhere in the reception, and you're not freshened up with that, that kind of mood. You're starting work, what kind of motivation you'll have that day? You'll be thinking, when will the shift be over? Okay, I'll have to go home. I did not call my friend also. I would, evening when I go, the friend may not reach on time, then I'll have to wait outside. Okay, I have not had breakfast today. I'll have to wait till lunch. What kind of food is available here, I don't know. So you're thinking of all those things. Okay, at least tomorrow I should come on time. What will happen? So that day your motivation will be very low. So instead, if they call you one day before saying that you start your work from Wednesday, so you have enough time. So you go there, you reach they provide you their guest house. So you reach their guest house, had nice breakfast, freshened up, and then from there you go to the workplace. So imagine that day how will be your motivation. You are not rushing, you are very comfortable, very fine. You have 1 week to stay in the guest house, then you can search for accommodation. So imagine your motivation will be at different level. So like that, Maslow says organizations must first provide all these things: food, clothing, shelter. Okay, all these physiological needs. Only then you can expect employees to be motivated. Without proper place to stay, without no food and all, without proper clothing, you don't expect them to do wonders. Okay, so first this need should be met. The next need that comes is safety. So when we talk of safety needs, there are two things we can look at. One is physical safety at workplace, another is job security. Okay, once your stomach is filled, good clothing, shelter, then what motivates you? What motivates you is the proper job, timely salary, good supervisor. Okay, nice colleagues at work. Nothing will fall on your head. You are safe. You have been given internet connection. You are given a nice system. Okay, all the required stationaries are provided to you, and you know that you will not be kicked out, uh, you know, without giving some notice. You can stay there nicely. Nice salary is given, so that makes you motivated. All that come in your safety needs. Okay, so once physiological needs are met, safety needs motivates people. Once the safety needs are met, then what motivates a person? Okay, here comes your social needs. Okay, see, man is a social animal, you know that. We all want to belong to some groups. Imagine everyone, we are all classmates, and everybody plans and goes to Goa or Gokarna or some Padubidri, somewhere you are going beach party, and you are not invited me. I am also your classmate. You are not messaged me. I'm not in your WhatsApp group. You left me and went. How will I feel? I will feel dejected. I think this place is not for me. Like that, at workplace, people look for this kind of friendships. Okay, group membership, social connection. You want to be a part of different team. You want to, feel like you belong to that place. When this is not met, okay, you don't have any friends. You are being ignored and all that. You may feel demotivated. So Maslow says, once food and all is done, job safety, security is there, then a person wants the social needs. Okay, we read about informal and formal organization. Informal, the groups that comes on its own, like bullet lovers club or movie goers club and all that. Like that, organizations will have some clubs, okay, for different things. So that is because to meet this need, social needs, you don't want to be left ignored. You want to be considered for something. Your suggestions are taken. You belong to that place. So that is your social needs. Okay. So once this need is met, then what motivates a person? Okay, then that need is self-esteem. Okay, you are craving for some kind of acknowledgement, recognition, and all that. If you get that, you are motivated. If you don't get, you may be demotivated. For example, if you remember when you got say 9.5 CGPA, or in 10th 12th you got 95% or something, if your parents say, wow, wonderful, what a great achievement, I am proud of you, this that, you'll feel different. But if you tell, what's the big deal, Sharmaji's son got 97, what's the big deal, your brother got into IIT, what's the big deal, your sister got into medicine, but you have only 92 percentage, what is this, I don't know what will you do in your life and all. If these kind of things are told to you, you will feel dejected, you will feel, what is the need of studying, what is the point in doing all this. But instead you are told, fantastic work, great job, I am proud of you, you will feel, yes, okay, I am being recognized. That's why I don't know, you must have seen, your batch would have seen this, tea with the director, coffee with the director, people coming to your class and appreciating you for getting 9.5 CGPA, or toppers getting gold medal and all that. Okay, why is that? That is to meet your self-esteem needs. If you look at workplace, when the other needs are met, okay, people actually crave for this, just a small recognition, employee of the year, student of the year, employee of the month, star of the week, some kind of things you may see in future when you start working. All that is to motivate people, that is your to meet your self-esteem needs. See, sometimes people don't want anything, बस आप इतना बोल दिए, छाती चौड़ा हो गया हमारा, बस I don't want any monetary gain, बस you recognized me, you know that itself is a motivation to some people. But if people ignore you, what's the big deal, we have done this, and it's not a great thing, you may feel, what is the use of all this. Okay, so that is your self-esteem need, that is the fourth in the hierarchy as explained by Maslow. Now, imagine once all these needs are met, then what motivates a person? It's called self-actualization needs, or it's called self-fulfillment. Okay, see, now, see, you learned so many softwares and so many things, but you are taken into a job and you have to use an Excel sheet and total everything. You have to do some Excel entry and you have to total that and give the report. So 1 month you may feel good, nice salary, I'm getting 50,000 for doing this. You may feel, wow, what a life. Now second month you are doing the same thing. Just do some data entry, take a printout and total it. Now something you may feel, "Arey yaar, what and all I have studied in life. I've broken my head for mechanical vibrations. I've broken my head for what is that, basic electrical. I learned that so many things. I learned that engineering mechanics, cantilever beams, this, that, so many things I learned, and I'm doing this totaling here, which anyone can do. So you may feel dejected. Okay, like that, when you reach a certain level, you expect some kind of challenging job. You want to take responsibility. You want to show your creativity. Okay, if you get that kind of opportunity, you will totally fulfilled, totally content in your job. Okay, that is your self-actualization need. Once other needs are met, you want to become the HOD. Okay, you want to become the associate director, joint director, director, like that. You want to take charge because you have so much experience, so much knowledge, all your other needs are met. Now this is the motivation for you. But if you're still doing some simple task, you may totally lose motivation. So Maslow says this is the order you have to follow, and he says he compiles this into two: lower order needs and higher order needs. Okay, lower order needs are basically extrinsic motivation. Okay, higher order needs are intrinsic motivating factors which you cannot see outside, but from inside you should feel motivated. Okay, so this is called extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic could be giving you higher salary, incentive, and all that. Intrinsics, this kind of social esteem, self-esteem, satisfaction, self-actualization. So this is intrinsic motivation. So lower order needs and higher order needs. Okay, so if this question is asked, you are expected to draw on hierarchy and then explain briefly. So always remember that is the physiological need, not psychological. Okay, and Maslow says unless the lower order needs are met, a person will not be motivated to work further. So Maslow says that first give physiological needs. Okay, then self-esteem, so safety needs, then social, then self-esteem, then self-actualization. Okay, even though there are some theories that tell you need not follow this order, it can go to any order, there are some backup theories which say that, but Maslow says this is the one. And some people have tried to add something below that physiological. Okay, for your generation, say Wi-Fi, or for some people they simply for fun added biryani. Okay, or said power bank, or Netflix or other OTT platforms. So they say unless these needs are met, a person will not be motivated to work further. Okay, so that is just for example, but as per Maslow, physiological, safety, social esteem, and self-fulfillment. So if you look at this figure here, whatever I explained, it is put in simple words here. Okay, you can have a look at it later. So that is about Maslow. Now, if you look at the second theory, this theory is called theory X and theory Y. Okay, I'll explain this theory in simple terms. Okay, according to theory X, these people believe that human beings don't like to work. Okay, human beings do not like to take responsibility. They want to shy away from work. They are of no use. This is your theory X. Theory Y says that people want to work. People want to take responsibility. They want to show their creativity and skill. They want to prove their worth. So if we give them responsibility, they will be motivated. Simple as that. So we have theory X managers, theory Y managers. Theory X people believe that no, this person is a waste. He doesn't have any ambition. He always runs away from responsibility, waste fellow like that. But theory wise say they want to work, they want to take charge, they want to show their skills. If we give them the right work, they will be motivated, they will be changed. Okay, this you must have seen in many movies. If you remember, I don't know the name, some Hindi movies or some regional language movies, initially the hero will be a waste fellow. Okay, sitting under a banyan tree and playing cards, playing Ludo, gambling, doing nothing, waste of time, in between smoking, drinking, eve teasing, all sorts of things. Then the relatives say, Shadi kar do iski, he'll change. Then they get married to that hero, then he gets married to the heroine, then he fully changes. Okay, he starts his own transport agency, he becomes the kind of Hira Thakur like that, change. Okay, so if you see that in real life, that is your theory X, theory Y. Theory X managers feel that no, these people are waste. I will not give him any work. He will not improve and all that. But theory Y, yes, he will improve. I will give him some work. Many of you must have been your class monitors in school. Okay, usually teachers make the naughtiest person as the class leader. Okay, one person who always shouts from the bench, from the backbenchers, always creating trouble or something. You make him a leader, then everything will be all right. Okay, so that kind of thinking. So that is your theory X, theory Y. Okay, very simple theory, put in very simple words. Okay, then the third theory, what you have is Herzberg's two-factor theory. This is given by a researcher called Herzberg. Okay, so we call it as Herzberg's two-factor theory. Another name for it is called motivation hygiene theory. This is also known as motivation hygiene theory. So what is this? What do you mean by hygiene? Okay, hygiene in general sense, what see now, wash your hands, Dettol, sanitizer, all that. Okay, that is in normal terms. But in managerial terms, the meaning of hygiene factors is bare minimal necessity. Okay, hygiene factor means what is the minimum requirement, that is your hygiene factor. So we tell, okay, so suppose I want to take online class, what I need? I need a laptop, I need headphone, I need internet connection and all that. So people tell that is, those are hygiene factors that you need, either you take class or you don't take class. That minimum is needed for you to work. Tell me what else you need. Okay, so like that in Herzberg's theory, he says motivation hygiene factors. Hygiene factors are the bare minimal. Company should provide that. There's no big deal. See, Maslow told physiological needs, safety needs, and all that. So Herzberg says those are hygiene factors. Yeah, that's the minimum thing you are supposed to do. Okay, company should provide food, clothing, shelter. Company should make sure your job is secure. They should provide you job security. They should provide you good supervisors. They should give you some incentives. They should give you provident fund. Okay, they should give you medical facilities, insurance. These are the minimal things. Okay, what other things are there for motivation? So that comes under motivation factors. Okay, so if you see hygiene factors in this, salary, wage, benefit, job security, work-life balance, conditions at work, these are minimal things. Motivator factors are your intrinsic things. Okay, chance for growth, some chance for promotion, acknowledgement of something good you have done, giving you recognition and all that. So if you put this in simple terms, what Herzberg says is, if there are no hygiene factors at work, a person will be dissatisfied at work. Okay, I'll tell again. If there are no hygiene factors at work, a person will be dissatisfied. But if hygiene factors are there, the person will be just about there. Doesn't mean hygiene is there, he is motivated. No. Hygiene not there, he is dissatisfied. If hygiene factors are there, he is just about there. To motivate him from there, you need motivation factors. Okay, see, once again I'll tell you, listen carefully. If there are no hygiene factors at work, a person will be dissatisfied. If there are hygiene factors, the person will be just about there. To motivate him, you need other motivator factors. So this is what Herzberg says. So if you link this with Maslow's hierarchy, this is how it will look. See, Maslow's lower order needs are hygiene factors here. Okay, and the higher order needs come under motivators. So Herzberg says that, you know, the normal working conditions, salary, supervision, the friendship at work, the groups that are formed, all these things are hygiene factors. Nothing great about it. This should be there. But other things will act as motivators, like a nice career growth plan for you. If you achieve this much, you will get promotion. If you do this, we will give you awards, best actor award, whatever, best employee award, all those things. Okay, so that becomes your, if you do achieve some target here, will make you a bank manager in some other place. If you achieve something else, will make you a VC in some other institute, like that. So they give you some kind of growth opportunities, so that becomes motivator for people. So this is what three motivation theories that you have in your syllabus. Okay, one is Maslow's hierarchy, one is theory X theory Y, another is Herzberg's two-factor theory, which is also known as motivation hygiene theory. So usually question asked is draw and explain Maslow's hierarchy, or compare and contrast Maslow's hierarchy and Herzberg's two-factor theory. So you should be able to explain with this kind of sketch. Okay, or sometimes we'll give you a small story that this happened, some 7 8 lines, small caselet. This kind of things happened in this. What do you think is the problem? Okay, how you could have, as a manager, how you would have motivated this person. So you should be able to tell. Okay, I think this person is driven by, say, self-actualization needs. He has done something, but he was not acknowledged. So I think that self-esteem needs are hurt here, or that's why we should give him some challenging work, like that. Your point of view, whatever you think is correct, just justify that. So that is about your motivation. Okay, so these are the three theories about motivation. Then if you look further, okay, sometimes what are other motivation techniques? Okay, like whatever we discussed in different terms. Okay, praising some people for good work, yes, excellent, you have done a nice job. Okay, making a clear, you know performance appraisal criteria, that can be motivation. Okay, if I achieve this much, I'll get good performance appraisal. Okay, so these kind of small things. Now there are some negative techniques that are needed for motivation. Okay, so maybe some kind of warning. Okay, if you are not, say for example, if I tell you your attendance is less, only 74%, less than 74 will be detained. So that may motivate you to come to class and make it 75. Okay, and if you don't meet this target, there is a chance that you will be demoted. You will become, you will go to one grade less. So that could motivate you to work further. Okay, or layoff or discharge. Okay, you will be, your contract is going to end. You will terminate your contract if you don't achieve this objective in next 2 months. So that may, encourage you to work further. So these are negative motivational techniques. So we will look at leadership. Okay, see, in this you have three leadership theories which you should know, which you can apply at your workplace. Okay, see, this chapter usually begins with a debate called leaders are born or leaders are made. There can be two point of views, both are correct. There are n number of examples for born leaders, there are n number of examples for leaders who are made. So there is no one hard and fast rule, but how you can get the things done from others, okay, that makes all the difference. Okay, how people look up to you. Okay, so what is the special thing in you that takes people along with you, that makes all the difference. So that is your leadership. So we look at some theories that will make help you understand what this leadership is all about. Okay, so we'll start with the first theory. It is leadership based on the use of authority. Okay, so we know now authority is the right to give orders. So based on that, there is a leadership theory. What is it? We will see. Okay, this was given by Kurt Lewin in 1939. It still holds good. Okay, so based on the leadership style, Lewin says that there can this based on authority, people can be categorized into three types. Okay, one is autocratic leader, one is democratic, another is free rein leader. Okay, we will see what it is. Now see, what is the meaning of autocratic leader? See, autocratic leader, if you see in that figure, you will find out, I want both of you to do this. No questions asked. Just shut up. Just do what I say. Okay, I know better than you. Just do it. So do you think this leadership style is bad? Okay, the answer is no. See, sometimes you need this kind of leadership styles. Now suppose you are in army or military or something. I am the boss. I say fire, you fire. Okay, whatever argument should have happened in the backstage. Okay, what will happen, how what to do, this that. Now I have come to this stage, I have decided something, you just fire, we'll discuss about it later. Okay, or say in some construction or manufacturing industry, some quality issue is telling, quality issue has come, I say stop the production, just stop, you discuss with me later. Okay, so this doesn't mean that this person is always like that, but the situation is demanding like that. Okay, so that is your autocratic leader, where this is used in those times when the boss believes that the subordinates are not confident enough. They are just trainees or they are just learning. I know more than them. I have handled these situations before. So he says, you just do it, no questions asked right now. Okay, if you put that in a schematic diagram, it will look like this. The leader giving the commands to followers, no feedback taken. So we cannot tell this is bad. See, this is needed sometimes. Okay, the time is less, something you have to do, some task has to be achieved. So there is no time for discussion right now. So just do it. I know better than you. You are just a trainee or you are inexperienced. I know I have handled this situation before, so just listen to me. So this you can see, military, manufacturing, construction, you are doing some concrete work or something. I have done the planning before, and by today itself, we have to finish the plastering or something. So just do what I say. Okay, we'll discuss about all these things later. So that kind of thing. So this is when the leader has less confidence on the subordinates. Okay, so doesn't mean this is bad, and doesn't mean this is good also, and it doesn't mean that this person is always like that. Okay, that situation is like that. After that, he may be very relaxed and chilled. He may not break his head much, but that situation needed that. Okay, so that is leadership style based on autocratic leadership. Now, the next is democratic or participating. Okay, here the way of looking at it is, let's together work to solve this. Let's together do this. Okay, this can be situations where the boss doesn't know everything, subordinates do not know anything, but all are combining together, complementing each other and getting the task done. Now suppose we all are a part of same project. Okay, let's assume that I am good in writing. You are good in C people are good in coding. Aeronautical people are good in manufacturing some protocol. So we are working on some project. So I don't know. I have no experience in manufacturing all this. Uh, what do you call that? I don't have experience of this soldering or this lathe machine or some machining work I don't know. So you do that. I have no idea about coding and all. So I give it to you. But I'm good in writing and you are not so good in writing. So I'll do that. So we together do this. So this is called democratic or participative. Okay. So some situations demand this. This doesn't mean that the boss is a useless fellow. He doesn't know anything. Okay, see, he need not know everything. He should just know to collect the things. He should just know to get the things done. Okay, so they complement each other and then together it is done. So this is one leadership style, democratic or participative. So this is the way it looks if you put it in a schematic diagram. There is communication all across. Okay, I need something from you, you need something for me, and we are discussing amongst each other, but the task is getting done. Okay, so that is democratic or participative. Again, like I told you, this is not a sign of weakness. This is just a chance to get in together. Okay. Another leadership style in this is delegative or free rein leadership. Okay, here the thing is, you take care of the problem while I'm doing something else. This is used when the boss is confident about the subordinates. Yes, they can do this. This is not a very tough task, very chill task, very easy. I need not sit on their head and supervise. They'll do it. By that time, I'll do something else. Okay, so this is that kind of leadership style where is very delegative. I'm just asking you to do this. Okay, very free. I'll let you free. Just to do this and give it to me. How you do it's your problem. I know it's not a very tough task. You have done this before. You have experience in this. So just give it to me. So this is one kind of relaxed situation. But this is when the boss is sure that subordinates can do it. Okay, when he is confident that yes, this is simple task, nothing will happen. But the final responsibility is of the boss. If something goes wrong, the boss will be blamed. Okay, so this is uh, leadership based on authority. If you keep authority in mind, what kind of leadership? Authoritarian or autocratic leadership, delegative or participative, and delegative, free rein leadership. Okay, so this is how the schematic diagram looks like. Okay, communication all over. There is no tension. The boss is letting subordinates take more charge. Okay. Then we look at the next leadership style. It's given by Likert. So it is called Likert's 4 systems of managing. See, this is also based on authority. So there will be overlap between the previous theory and this. Okay, so don't think this is totally different. There will be some overlap. Okay, some things could repeat from that theory to here. Okay, but this is given by Likert. So he says there are 4 systems of management. One is exploitative authoritative, benevolent authoritative, consultative, participative. Okay, so we'll see what it is. Some words are repeating from the previous theory like consultative, participative, authoritative. We'll see what it is. It is known as Likert's 4 systems of managing. So the first system is called exploitative authoritative. Okay, this is used when the boss has no trust and confidence on the subordinates, like I told you. Okay, these people are new, they don't know what they are doing, so I know better, they should listen to what I say, as simple as that. So that is exploitative authoritative. Okay, again, doesn't mean that this leader is like that always, but we are in short of time, we have to finish this task, so I'm not giving you any freedom, just do what I say, that's all. This is for the larger good of the organization. So that kind of thing. Okay. If you look at benevolent authoritative, again authority is there, but here the leader has little bit confidence and trust on people. Okay, he knows that these people can do, and he's going little bit easy. Okay, benevolent means caring or compassionate. In exploitative authoritative, for example, suppose you ask me, can I drink some water and come? I'll tell no, first finish the task, we don't have time. In this I'll tell, okay, drink water and bring one bottle for others also. But this task should be done today. I'm little bit, caring for you, benevolent. So again, use of authority, but little bit considerate. Okay, so some people's leadership style. So see, what happens in this leadership is, we cannot categorize that this person is like this all the time, but some qualities stand out. So different situation is doing a different situation, a person is behaving differently, but there will be predominant qualities in some. So people catch hold of that. Now if you tell Hitler was a dictator and all that. Okay, in some situation he was like that, but he had some other moods also. He was doing different things also, but predominantly he was like that. So you cannot tell some person is always benevolent, authoritative. Okay, predominantly is like that, but he will be sometimes exploitative, authoritative also. He will be sometimes other things also. Okay, so benevolent, little bit considerate. Okay, I have 75%. Okay, I'll make it 75. Okay, no problem. Some from 74, no 74. Go to hell. You give medical certificate. No, this that whatever. You are detained and all. Sometimes okay, no problem. I understand this that. So like that, exploitative, authoritative, benevolent, authoritative. Now, if you look at consultative, see here what happens is, suppose I ask you some questions. Okay, when would you like to come back here? From when do you want, offline classes? So you will tell me we want from April 1st, May 1st, June 1st. Some will tell from next week. Okay, I'm getting everything from you. Then I'll tell no, from April 10th we will have. Okay, so that is consultative decision making. Okay, I take some things from you, and then based on the best situation, best, what do you call that, best backup, I'll take one decision. Okay, I'm consulting to know what you are thinking about, so that becomes consultative. Okay, because here the subordinate is, the boss doesn't have full confidence on the subordinates. Okay, they are, maybe inexperienced, they don't know so many things, they are freshers. So let me take their opinion, what they are thinking, then the final call will be mine. So that is consultative. The next is participative. Participative is when I know that you are extremely intelligent, you are as good as me, or you have equal experience, you know things much more. So in that case, together we will decide, okay, what's the best date? You are telling April 10th, someone will tell that day this is there, then we'll tell April 15th, that day something else is there. Then finally we do some, permutations, combinations, then we decide, May 1st we will start. So like that. That is your participative decision making, where everybody takes part in that. Okay, consultative is basically like, suno jag ki karo man ki. Okay, I'm just getting, just to catch your pulse. I'm knowing. I want to catch your pulse, what you're thinking and all that. Then the decision is mine, because I know that you are immature, you are not up to the mark, very inexperienced, just 2 years experience. You have not seen the firm enough. You have not seen the world enough. I have done these things before, so I'll just gauge the situation and take my call. Participative, we together come to some consensus. Okay, because I treat you as my, equal. You have almost similar years of experience. You have come from different firm, which was better than this. So you have some better exposure. So keeping all those things, I'll consider your opinion also, and then together we'll take a call. So that is participative. So that is your Likert four systems of managing. Okay, in which you have exploitative, authoritative, benevolent, authoritative, consultative, and participative. Okay. Okay, then we will have a quick look at the third leadership style. Okay, this is known as managerial grid. This is given by Blake and Moulton. So sometimes it is called as Blake and Moulton grid. So leadership styles based on Blake and Moulton grid. So when that word grid is there, you can imagine that means some grids will be there, some kind of boxes will be there. Okay, what it would be, it is like this. So I told you some figures are important. So this is one of those figures. Okay, sometimes this is asked for, if you're asked draw and explain Blake and Moulton grid. So you're expected to draw this grid. Very simple. This is on a scale of 1 to 9. Okay, if I take you to the next figure, you'll understand. So according to Blake and Moulton, so on a scale of 1 to 9, they have categorized two things. Okay, one is concern for production, one is concern for people. So based on the concern for production and people, you can have so many leadership levels, but they have prominently spotted five leadership styles according to this. Okay, so when you have X and Y, when X is less, Y is more, X is more, Y is less. When both are equal, what will happen? That is what we see in this. See, concern for production is a manager's, attitude towards the goal achievement. Okay, we have been given this target, so he's more worried about the production. We should get this task done. This was the target given. Okay, concern for people is he's more concerned about people. Okay, you want leave, you take rest, you are not feeling well, your salary is less, you'll think of increasing, you're putting too much effort, relax a bit, like that. Concern for people. So based on this, we have some levels, some grids, and some, what do you call, some points here. Okay, one is when the concern for production is low and the concern for people is also low. Okay, this is called impoverished management. It is at 1 comma 1. Okay, low concern for production. The manager is not worried about production. Okay, production is going slow, let it happen, no problem. No concern for people also. I don't care if you don't get a break, do whatever you want, continue working. Okay, see, that doesn't mean this person is like that all the time. Now, for some reason, he is like that. Okay, this could be maybe he has resigned from the work, he is serving his notice period, he is not bothered much. Okay, or he is demotivated because of, he has not been given some proper promotion, or he has done some good work but no acknowledgement is given. He is, kind of heartbroken for some reason. So not much worried about production, not much worried about person also, not worried about people also. Putting minimum required effort, okay, just to sustain that membership in the organization. Okay, not meeting target, not concerned about people also, but you know that you will not be kicked out. Okay, so you can transform these people. There is something that is stopping this person. We should find out and we can push them to other levels. Okay, so that is 1 comma 1, low concern for production, low concern for people. If you look at the next one, high concern for production, low concern for people. Okay, we call it authority compliance. Okay, I don't care what you want to take half day, no. You want to drink water and all, no. First you do this. Concerned about production, we have to meet the target. If we meet this target, we'll get more orders, we'll get more money inflow in the organization, we'll grow like anything. So I don't care for you. See, doesn't mean this person is like that all the time. Maybe today the deadline is approaching, so he's focused on that. Okay, we don't have time, we have to finish the syllabus, so I'm not going to cancel any classes. I'm not going to think about anything. Just do this. So that kind of thing. Okay, high concern for production. People can wait. You after this you relax. Now you don't take leave. Just focus on this work. Okay, so always remember this doesn't mean that person is like that all the time. Okay. Another thing, if you look at high concern for people, but low concern for production. Okay, production can wait, but people let them enjoy, let them take rest. Okay, so that is called country club management. So more kind of friendly kind of organization, friendly kind of environment, atmosphere. Okay, and relaxed work tempo, not worried about production. So this could be where you are ahead of the production schedule. Okay, you know that you can meet the target now easily. By one day you can achieve the target, but you have 5 days in hand, so a bit chilled. Okay, let's relax, nothing to worry. So you are more concerned about people. You wanted to take leave, okay, take off. We can still meet the target, so nothing to worry. So we call that country club management. So doesn't mean this will be like that all the time. Okay, so then there are two other things. One is 5 comma 5, equal concern for production and equal, medium concern for people, medium concern for production. Okay, that is called middle of the road. Okay, you're not forcing too much, you're not being too strict also. Just that, if you break the rules, you'll be punished. But if you do nothing, things are okay, you can take a break, I don't mind. Okay, that kind of middle of the road management, which is kind of optimum. Okay, then you have team management, where the concern for production is high, but the concern for people is also high. Okay, so this is the case where you can see a lot of committed people, you know, and people are so worried about production and all that because they have some share in the organization. Okay, the organization does better, they get more profit, so they are more concerned for production, and the manager is more concerned for people also. So it goes hand in hand. So that is team management. So that is extended version of middle of the road, where you are concerned about both, you are balancing both equally, you are not doing anything extreme and other thing, very less. You're just balancing both the situations and going ahead successfully. So this is your Blake and Mountain leadership grid. Okay, where you plot concern for people and concern for production. and based on the different levels you have impoverished management, authority compliance, country club management, middle of the road, and team management. Okay, so at this point let me take your attendance. Oh, still 166 people are attending. Good. Okay. Yes. So now we will look at another small topic which is also very important and very easy to understand. This doesn't require any background, but very simple and important things. You can understand it any time of the day. So what we look at is the way US organizations operate, the way Japanese organizations operate, and what is the best thing to do. So that best thing to do, we call it as theory Z. Okay, this is given by someone known as William Auchi. We will see what it is. First we'll look at how Japanese organizations work. Okay, very simple things, just 4 slides, 4 marks in your pocket. You should know what happens in Japanese organizations, what happens in US organizations, what is the best of these two. Okay, as simple as that. So if you look at let me put it. If you look at Japanese organizations, they go for lifetime employment. Okay, with this what happens, people will be fully motivated. Once you are in, you are like in for life. Okay, so you know that your job is secured. Okay, your safety needs are met, so people are very, happy, so they put more efforts to learn because you have to be here for your life. So you should be quick to learn so that you can go higher in the chain faster. So that is your lifetime employment. Okay, next is collective decision making. There is nothing like I only make the decisions, you have to just do what I say. So Japanese believe in collective decision making. Okay, some kind of democracy kind of, let's all sit together and decide. So collective decision making. And something, if something backfires, collective responsibility. Yes, we all take the blame, we failed it. Okay, we are all responsible. So that kind of nature. Okay, and if you look at performance appraisal angle, slow evaluation and promotion. See, obviously it's lifetime employment, so there is no hurry to judge you. So maybe 1 year training, then after that, then your performance appraisal starts because you are there for life. Okay, so aram se, first you learn your work, get to know what you should do, then your performance appraisal will start. Then we will give you some target and ask you to meet it. Based on that, your appraisal will be done. So no hurry. Okay, and most of the times they go for, implicit control mechanisms. Okay, very friendly, you need not say everything, it need not be documented everything. Okay, some things are understood. Okay, so that is your implicit, uh, you know control mechanisms, need not be written down everything, some kind of understanding is there. See, for example, 1 second. See, in one of the previous classes we have discussed, okay, what is the meaning of tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. Okay, if you look at knowledge management, like, marketing management, human resource management, like that, you have knowledge management also. In that, one of the fundamental things is what is explicit knowledge and what is tacit knowledge. See, explicit knowledge is something which is coded, okay, which anyone can read and do. For example, you want to repair an AC, you can look at the manual and do it. Okay, you are doing some kind of cooking, you're making a curry. Okay, now add this, now add that, namak swad anusar, like this, everything is written, you can do it. Okay, that is explicit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is something which cannot be coded, which cannot be written down anywhere, which is through your experience. It stays in your mind. Okay, for example, if you look at your mother and all cooking, so looking at the, feeling the smell, they can tell sometimes. Okay, this is cooked, this is done. Or looking at the color, they can find out. Okay, little bit of salt is less, I guess. Okay, or little bit something else is more. So they cannot write it down. How they made that judgment? Okay, like I told you, if you work in a steel plant, So all that material is very hot, so it has to be set at the right temperature. So sometimes people can just look at that and tell the temperature is below 900 degrees, or it is below whatever, or it is more than this by looking at the color, but they cannot write it. If it is orange kind of, yellow kind of, pink, it is no, they cannot write it. It's by knowledge. Okay, sometimes I have seen people just spit on that steel bar, very hot steel bar. They spit on it, and the time taken, the spit evaporates in some 2-3 seconds. So looking at the time, they can tell this is ready for, next process or not. Is the temperature adequate or not? Just by looking at how it evaporated, how fast. Okay, that cannot be coded. So that is your tacit knowledge. Okay, so like that, if you look at implicit control mechanisms, there are some things in Japanese organizations which are understood and implied. Okay, you came early today, you go early today. Okay, it's not written down anywhere, just for understanding. Okay, see, if you are going to do your masters in human resource management and all, see, you will find out that in some organizations people are happy because of the psychological contract. So your work contract is there, physical. Okay, but then there is something called psychological contract, which is not written anywhere, just kind of informal, but people are ready to go the extra mile for each other, the company and the employees. Okay, see what it could be. It could be this kind of thing. See, 9 to 5 you have to be in college, for example. But if you come at 8:30, you go at 4:30, it's okay. Okay, it's not written down anywhere. But you went at 4:30, you will not be penalized because you have come at 8:30. So these kind of some things, no? You must have seen that in your friendship also. Okay, that kind of things motivates you. You feel that friend is good. Good, once you spent money for some party, next time the friend is spending, and you're not keeping account. You spent 1 rupee, you give me 1 rupee back. 2 rupees you have taken, give me 2 rupees back. If someone doesn't count and all, you may feel okay, this is good. Okay, like that. So in that psychological contract, people, when they believe in it, the attrition rate becomes less in organizations. Okay, so people feel good about those things when you don't keep count of every simple thing. So Japanese believe in that. Okay, and they believe in non-specialized career path. For example, today you thought that your interest is research and R&D you wanted to be in. Then after some time you found out that you wanted to be a manufacturer. Okay, then after some time you felt that quality is the right job for you. So like this, they won't pressure you, they won't force you. You can do. Okay, if you feel that you are fit for that job, you can try your hand at that. So non-specialized career path, you can switch in between if needed. Okay. And holistic concern for employee as a person. Okay, we are not only worried about you, we care for your family also, your kids also. So Medicare, your parents are covered, your kids are covered. Okay, so we have some facilities for them also. So because if they are happy, you will be happy, you will be more productive. So they look at the holistic concern. So that is Japanese kind of organizations. Okay, if you look at US American style, see, short term employment. Okay, basically hire and fire. Okay, most of the times we are taking you for a part time position. So you know that you won't be there for long. So that kind of attitude. And individual decision making. Okay, high individuality. So I take this decision, and if it fails, I am responsible. I am not shying away from it. It was my decision to do it. I took the blame. The blame is on me. Okay, so that is fine. But sometimes what happens, people make someone scapegoat. Okay, we will be safe, let him take the decision. That kind of things can happen. And rapid evaluation and promotion, because the main crux is not lifetime employment, short term employment. So we don't know how many months will be here, how many years will be here. So rapid evaluation and promotion decisions. And most of the things are explicit control mechanisms. Everything is cleanly written. If you come at 9, you have to go at 5. If you come at 8:45, doesn't matter, you have to be at 5, something like this. Every rule and regulation is written. That's why if you tell them, where is it written, show me. Okay, and things will be written there cleanly, crisply, what is to be done. Okay, what is your exact job requirement, it's written there. Okay, and more or less specialized career path, because you are not there for long term. So we don't want you to switch between different things. You have been asked to do this, you stick to that. Okay, good for them, works for them. And segmented concern for employee. See, we are hiring you, we are worried about you. Okay, we'll take total care of you. We are not worried about other things beyond you. Okay, because you know some cultures, family structure is different. All are individual. After 16 years, you are individual. So you don't know who is a part of you now. So we just think about you. So that is American organization. So based on these two things, William Auchi, he says there should be a theory Z, which should be the best of both of these. Okay, so here is the best of both of this. Okay, so William Auchi feels long-term employment is the best option because people will be there for long. They can learn. They know they'll be here. Okay, and participative decision making is good. Instead of one person taking call, okay, let's together do this. And individual responsibility is good. If you make it group responsibility, so all will be punished. So people will not be serious. So the boss should get the heat. So that will be individual responsibility. And slow promotion is good. Instead of hurrying up, let's give them 1 year training, then let's start performance appraisal. Okay, and a mix of implicit and explicit is best. Everything need not be written down. Everything need not be your psychological contract kind of thing. Let it be a mix, that is best. Okay, and moderately specialized career path. Strictly no, not good. Giving full freedom, not good. But once we can give you a chance, so that could be good. Okay, and holistic concern is good, including family. People will feel safe and secure. So that is your theory Z type of organization. Okay, so in one of the final chapters, you have something called as international business. In that, you learn about, I mean, this is the one. You talk about US, you talk about Japanese, and the best of that. That is your theory Z. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have one doubt, like why the Japanese culture and US culture are taken as extreme.
Why they have been taken as example?
Why they have taken as extreme cases, uh, like
Okay, okay,
like if you see, like there is Chinese working culture, there is Korean, there is Indian. So why only the Japanese and US working culture is taken as extreme?
okay. I'll get back to you on this, Ayush. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right now, I have no idea what I should answer. I'll just check and then I'll message you in chats. Okay. I've written down.
Okay, sir.
I'll get back to you. Okay. I am also now right now. I am also thinking why these two. Okay. I'll see. Good question. Yeah. Any other doubts? I'll switch off the recording. Yeah. Any other doubts anyone has? No. Okay. So we'll do one thing. We will meet on next Monday. Okay, this Thursday I have some work, and you also can sleep a bit more. Okay, 8 to 9. We'll meet on Monday fresh. Okay, so by the time, in the meantime, you just go through slides, some question papers also keep on seeing. Any doubts you have, you ask me. Okay, that is one thing. Second, those are in Coursera, this is the best time to, finish those things. Okay. Okay, so we'll call it a day. Take care. We'll see you next week. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.